Okay, welcome back. Today we are going to explain why assets prices just keep going up. Because I feel like a lot of people, and especially younger people, look around today and genuinely wonder what the hell is actually happening here. You look at housing prices, stock markets, land prices, even things like art or something ridiculous like Pokemon cards, and it feels like everything is becoming more expensive faster than ordinary people can realistically catch up. And I think the explanation that people usually get are a little bit incomplete. On the news, you heard things like low interest rates or money printing or supply and demand. And obviously, these things matter. Of course they do. But I don't think they explain the deeper dynamic. Because the real question isn't just why did house pricing rise this year. The real question is why has the entire system behaved for decades as if it is almost designed to push assets prices higher and higher and higher? And I think to understand that, you need to understand one really important thing about modern economies. Well, imagine you are government. I think that is possible to imagine. Okay? And your economy starts slowing down a little bit. Productivity growth becomes weak. Wages stop really growing properly. People become frustrated. Younger generation feel poorer than their parents. Historically, governments would deal with some of these problems more directly. Things like trade unions, larger public investments, more redistribution, things like that. But over last, let's say 40 years, we gradually moved away from this model. And instead, we built economies where people increasingly feel wealthier, not because their salaries rise, but because the value of their assets rises. So, their house price goes up, their pensions fund goes up, their stock portfolio goes up, and politically, this feels easier. Because if people feel wealthier due to rising house prices, governments can kind of avoiding dealing with deeper structural economic problem. But the problem is that once an economy becomes dependent on rising assets prices, you fall into a trap. Because suddenly if house prices fall significantly, it becomes a massive problem. Consumers panic because they feel poorer. Banks panic because mortgages become risky. Governments panic because the whole economy starts slowing down. And so policymakers increasingly behave as if assets prices are not really allowed to fall anymore. And honestly, you've probably already seen this happens yourself. After 2008, central banks cut interest rates close to zero. During COVID, trillions of dollars were created globally, and interest rates again went basically to zero. And where did the huge amount of money actually end up? Well, of course not in wages. A lot of it ended up in assets, things like stocks, housing, financial market generally. I bet you know someone who bought at least an apartment or a house during these periods. And this creates a self-reinforcing cycle where if you already own assets, you become wealthier and wealthier. But if you do not own your assets, ownership moves further and further away from you. So younger people need larger mortgages. Investors who already own property can borrow against exiting assets and buy more properly. And over time, ownership becomes increasingly concentrated. And I think this is the part people often misunderstand. When assets prices rise, people automatically assume society is becoming wealthier. And sometimes that is true. Sometimes productivity genuinely improves. But very often, what's actually happening is that the price of ownership itself is inflating. Like if house price double, but wages do not, society did not magically become twice as productive. The only thing that happened is that access to ownership become more expensive. And that create huge problem for ordinary people. And I think this is exactly why modern economies feel so strange to a lot of ordinary people today. Because on the paper, everything look wealthy. Stock market hit records high, properly valued explode, billionaires become richer. But ordinary people increasingly feel like they are running faster and faster, just stay in the same place. And once ownership become concentrated enough, assets inflation basically starts functioning as a system of upward financial transfer. Rent flow upward, mortgage payments flow upward, financial returns flow upward, and this is why assets prices keep rises. Not because it is some of natural law, not because the market randomly decides so, but because modern economies were gradually structured in a way that protect and inflates assets values. And honestly, I think we should probably expect the system to continue trying to push assets higher, even if that means ordinary life become increasingly unaffordable for ordinary people. Okay, so this is everything for this video. I hope you like it. If yes, leave me a like. If no, tell me why not. And I hope we see in next video.